Have you ever visited a tourist spot that felt too crowded, dirty, or even a little disappointing because of how people behaved? I think many of us have, and experiences like that show us why visitor management is very important. Good day, everyone. Hello, I am Jenny, and today our group represents a very important aspect of ecotourism, the visitor management. Visitor management may sound technical, but in reality, it is something that we all encounter whenever we visit a tourist destination. Whenever we line up, follow a guided trail, pay an entrance fee, or even read do not litter signs, that is visitor management in action. And our goal for this discussion is to explain what the visitor management is, why it is important, what strategies are used, example destinations in the Philippines that has a good visitor management, and the legal frameworks that supports it. And by the end of this presentation, we will hopefully understand how visitor management protects both the environment and the visitor experience. So let's begin with the definition. Visitor management is the process of guiding, controlling, and monitoring the flow of tourists in a particular site. So it aims to minimize negative impacts while maximizing benefits. So, for example, think of it this way, guys. For example, if a place or if the visitor management of a place is left unmanaged, what will happen? Diba crowds will increase, waste accumulates, resources get damaged, and eventually the overall experience becomes unpleasant. However, on the other hand, if visitors are guided properly through rules, limits, and regulations, the site will remain beautiful and the visit becomes more meaningful. This is why visitor management matters because it protects fragile ecosystems and the cultural heritage. It ensures that tourists enjoy their visit without feeling overcrowded, and it helps local communities benefit from tourism while avoiding exploitation. That is why visitor management is both an environmental and a social responsibility.
Hi everyone, good day. I'm Amy R. Martirelias and I'll be your reporter for today. Now, let me ask you a question. I think that anyone could answer this because it's ano lang. I think everyone here has visited any destinations in Cebu or any tourist spots near Cebu. So my question is, have you ever visited a tourist spot that was so crowded that you could not really enjoy it? Well, my in my case, it's not really a tourist spot, or maybe it's considered a tourist spot, but like the Sinolo Festival here in Cebu, where there's too much people, yeah, and so much of that. That's exactly why we need to. I mean, that's exactly why visitor management really matters in ecotourism. Now we're presented here for, and let me discuss it or elaborate to you one by one. So, first we have it prevents environmental damage. So, let's say hundreds of tourists walking on the same trail every single day. For example, the Starbucks in Banawa, diba? Ever since it was popularized, there many people came there just to like hike, you know. Now, what do you think happens to the soil, to the plants, to the animals, and even to the people living around the area? Without, if naamanggalit, di ba? If people living around the area. Because there are some hiking spots like wala siya tao dyan. Pero like, for example, there are some food like the Starbucks that there are people living around the area. So without control, the environment suffers. There's erosion, pollution, and even loss of biodiversity. Now, visitor management solves this by setting limits. Smaller group sizes, clear no littering rules or kanang mga Clego policy nato, and restrictions on activities that can harm nature. Because of this, places that were once damaged by overcrowding have been able to recover and thrive again. For example, the case of Boracay. Because of uncontrolled tourism, the island faced serious water pollution, overcrowding, and environmental damage. The government had to close it for 6 months just to restore to its natural beauty. And now today, once with it opened, it became stricter. Diba? They have stricter visitor limits and rules. Now Boracay has recovered and is much cleaner than before. Second is it improves visitor satisfaction. By managing the flow of visitors, ecotourism sites become more peaceful and authentic. Reservation systems, zoning, and guided tours make sure tourists enjoy the site without feeling overwhelmed. And when visitors are given information about the place, they don't just see it. They understand it, respect it, and even remember it more deeply. Now, third is it supports local communities. So here's something that we often forget. Yeah, tourism isn't just about nature. It's not just about land. It's also about people too. Proper visitor management makes sure that jobs and income can support or can go to the locals and not just the outside businesses. For example, in Sagada, caving tours are only allowed with local guides, so this protects the cave while also creating steady work for the residents. When locals are involved in decision making, their culture and traditions are preserved and their livelihoods are strengthened. And finally, the last but not the least, it ensures sustainable tourism. So let's ask ourselves, do we want these destinations to exist only today or still be here for our children and our grandchildren or the future generations to enjoy? Diba? That's what sustainability is all about. Visitor management keeps a balance, allowing tourism while making sure nature and culture survive in the long run. With systems like permits, fair pricing, and strict rules, tourism stops being just about quick profits and becomes about long term protection. So, to wrap it all up, visitor management isn't just about controlling the number of tourists, it's about protecting the environment, improving the visitor experience, supporting local communities, and ensuring sustainability for future generations. If we manage visitors wisely, places like Boracay, Sagada, Palawan, or other places outside the Philippines will continue to inspire not just us, but also the generations that come after us. Now let's remember, ecotourism only works when nature, people, and culture are respected and protected. And visitor management is one of the key to making that possible. Now, thank you, and I hope we all see the importance of being our responsible travelers.
So, good day everyone. I am Rana Elaine Teves, and today I will be reporting about the goals of visitor management. So, visitor management is an important aspect of ecotourism and sustainable tourism because it helps ensure that natural and cultural sites are preserved, visitors have a meaningful experience, and local communities benefit. So, there are four main goals of visitor management that I will discuss today. So the first goal is to protect natural and cultural resources. So sa visitor management, importante kaayo nga maprotektahan nato ang mga sensitive ecosystems sama sa coral reefs, forest ug wildlife habitats. Ug apil pod ang mga historical ug cultural sites nga fragile ug dali madaot. Ang management ang makatabang nga malikayan ang overvisitation, littering ug mga activities nga makadaot sa natural ug cultural assets. So pinaagi sa pag-guide sa visitors kung unsaon ug asa ra sila pwede maka-access ug makig-interact sa lugar, maprotektahan nato ang mga critical areas ug ma-maintain ang balance sa tourism ug conservation. Pananglitan, ang paggamit sa designated trails, viewing platforms o clear signage makatabang ni siya sa paglimit og direct contact sa sensitive areas. So from this, masiguro nato nga ang mga natural o cultural resources magpabilin intact o available for future generations for them to also enjoy and learn from it. So the second goal is to enhance visitor experience. Kung maayo ang management sa site, mas comfortable ug safe ang experience sa visitors, na ay klaro nga information, facilities o guides nga makatabang sa pag-appreciate sa lugar. In short, kung mas malingaw ang visitors, mas motivated po ni sila nga mo-support sa conservation efforts. So the third goal is to improve operations and safety. So sa visitor management, dili lang nato gi-control ang crowding, pero gi-plan pod nato kung saon nga smooth ang movement sa visitors para dili sila magsabay-sabay ug malikayan ang chaos sa site. So from this, ma-minimize pod nato ang risk sama sa accidents, health hazards or damage sa site. So mas efficient pod ang paggamit sa staff og resources, meaning kabalo ang management kung asa ibutang ang mga guides, security og facilities para ma-maximize nato ang support sa visitors without wasting resources. So apil ani ang pagplano sa flow sa visitors, unsa nga ruta ang dapat sudlan sa visitors ug unsaon pag-manage ang peak hours. So, ang pag-monitor sa activities aron mahibaw-an kung naay potential hazards or violations. Ug ang pag-implement sa safety protocols sama sa emergency exits, signage, ug health and safety measures. So basically, this goal ensures nga safe, organized, ug well-managed ang experience sa tanan, while protecting both the visitors and the site itself. So the fourth goal is to benefit local communities. Kung maayo ang visitor management, maka-generate ni og income og employment para sa local people. Mas ma-empower pod ang community kay involved sila sa decision making ug sa development sa tourism sa ilang lugar. So in short, ang goal sa visitor management dili lang kay para makontrol sa visitors, but they are about balancing protection, experience, safety, and community benefits. So by achieving these goals, we can ensure that tourism contributes positively to both people and the environment. And that's all for me. Thank you.
So next we have strategies. We have 7 strategies, but I will only be discussing the 5, and the other 2 will be discussed by the next reporter. So for strategy 1, we have visitor flow regulation. Flow regulation refers to the management of tourist movement through designated routes, one-way paths, and strategic checkpoints. This approach is crucial in preventing overcrowding and protecting sensitive ecological and cultural areas. For example, we have the Chocolate Hills in Bohol. In this popular destination, well-marked pathways and designated viewing decks are used to minimize human impact on the surrounding natural landscape. Tourists are guided along specific trails, which helps maintain the integrity of the hills while still allowing people to enjoy the view. As shown on this map, the mark the marked trails help distribute foot traffic efficiently, avoiding unnecessary erosion or disturbance. Flow regulation not only preserves the environment but also enhances the visitor experience by reducing congestion and confusion. Next, for strategy 2, we have carrying capacity. This concept focuses on determining the maximum numbers of visitors a site can handle without suffering environmental or cultural degradation. A great example of this in action is the Boracay Island. After the island faced severe environmental issues due to mass tourism, the government imposed a daily visitor cap of 19,000 people or 19,000 tourists per day limit. This measure allowed the island to recover and maintain sustainability over the long term. Here, you can see the graph that illustrates how staying within capacity ensures long-term benefits, while exceeding it leads to damage. Carrying capacity is not just a number, it's a guideline for balance between tourism and preservation. When managed properly, it safeguards both the destination and the experience for future visitors. For strategy 3, permits and bookings, this strategy involves requiring tourists to book visits in advance or obtain permits. It is particularly useful in high demand destinations where visitor numbers need to be tightly controlled. For instance, the Puerto Princesa Underground River, they require all tourists to make advance bookings. This system limits the number of people allowed per day and allows sites managers to plan and prepare adequately, ensuring that each tour runs smoothly without harming the fragile cave ecosystem. The booking system, as shown here, acts like a filter, allowing a manageable number of guests while preventing spontaneous overcrowding. This approach not only controls impact, but also enhances safety, quality, and preparedness for both staff and guests. Strategy 4: Rules and Codes. These are clear guidelines that tourists must follow to protect the site and show respect for local customs and traditions. Take the, let's take the example of Sagada Hanging Coffins. This sacred site enforces strict rules: no littering, no touching the coffins, and maintaining silence out of respect for the deceased and the indigenous culture. Signage like these: no littering, no flash, no photography, no touching, serve as constant reminders for tourists. These rules might seem simple, but they play a vital role in preserving cultural dignity and natural beauty. Enforcing them consistently also teaches tourists to become more responsible and respectful travelers. Strategy 5: Education and Awareness. Educating tourists through orientation sessions, guided tours, and interpretive signage can significantly influence behavior and reduce negative impact. A perfect example is Apo Island dive briefings, a popular diving destination where entering the marine reserve all divers are required to attend a briefing session. Here, they learn how to interact with marine life responsibly, avoid coral damage, and understand the area's ecological importance. This photo shows a guiding briefing tourist, a simple yet impactful step in environmental awareness. Education empowers visitors to become stewards of the place they visit. When people understand the why behind the rules, they are much more likely to follow them. For the other strategies, it will be discussed by the next report. That would be all. Thank you.
So, good day, everyone. For continuation of Crisel's part, here's the strategy, which is the infrastructure support. So, the infrastructure strategy involves developing and maintaining physical facilities that help guide, distribute, and manage visitor flow while enhancing their experience and protecting the resource. So here's the view decks, boardwalks, and rest stops. So these facilities are critical tools. View decks concentrate visitors in designated durable spots, minimizing damage to surrounding areas while providing the best vantage points. Boardwalks elevate visitors above sensitive terrain like wetlands or fragile ecosystems, channeling movement and preventing trampling. Um, Rest stops offer essential amenities and break up long trails, improving safety and comfort. So, for example, is the Banawi Rice Terraces viewing decks. In places like Banawi Rice Terraces, the designated viewing decks prevent tourists from climbing all over the fragile rice paddies themselves, which are the main resource. The decks concentrate um, the impact on a small, manageable, and durable area. So next is the strategy number 7, which is monitoring and evaluation. The monitoring strategy is the continuous process of observing and evaluating visitor use and its effects on the environment and the visitor experience. It provides the data needed for informed management decisions. Here's the visitor counts, surveys, and environmental checks. And visitor counts track the volume and temporal patterns of visits. Surveys gather qualitative data on visitor satisfaction, behavior, and expectations. Environmental checks assess the physical impacts such as trail erosion, wildlife disturbance, or water quality. Adjust rules based on findings. This is the core purpose of monitoring. If data shows high environmental stress, such as severe erosion or poor visitor satisfaction or overcrowding, managers can adjust rules, for instance, by changing the daily visitor limit, restricting access to certain areas, or altering booking requirements. This creates a flexible, adaptive management system. So that's it for the strategies. Here is the example destinations in the Philippines. So the Philippines provide excellent diverse case studies for effective visitor management. So here in Puerto Princesa, underground river, um, the strategy is limits and booking. So this site employs a strict daily carrying capacity, maybe 900 visitors per day to protect the fragile cave ecosystem from overcrowding and pollution. Advanced booking is mandatory, which allows managers to control the exact numbers of entrants and ensures a smoother, more orderly entry process. Next is the Banawe Rice Terraces in Ifugao. Strategy infrastructure, as mentioned earlier, the use of designated viewing decks. Here, designated viewing decks um, is the key, right? So these structures manage crowds, offer safe photo opportunities, and protect the terraces themselves from direct foot traffic and potential damage to the stone walls or irrigation systems. Next is the Sagada Mountain Province. Um, we have guided caving tours for sensitive sites like the Sumaging and Lumiang Caves. Sagada enforces the use of mandatory local guides. This strategy ensures visitor safety within the complex cave systems, limits access to certain fragile formations, provides economic benefits to the local community, and allows guides to enforce site specific rules in real time. Next is the Boracay Island strategy is carrying capacity enforcement. So, following its temporary closure and rehabilitation, Boracay implemented advised, uh, I mean, Boracay implemented and actively enforces a strict carrying capacity, a maximum number of tourists permitted on the island at any one time, and a controlled number of operating establishments. So this dramatic measure was necessary to reduce environmental stress, such as better management, improved water quality, and improved the visitor experience by minimizing overcrowding on the beaches. It's a prime example of using monitoring data to set and enforce limits. So that's all for my part. Thank you.
Good day! My name is Dana Faye and I'm here to discuss about the legal framework in visitor management. So visitor management in the Philippines, it is not just a suggestion, but it is also backed up by laws and administrative orders. So some of the key ones are the DAO 2013 to 19, which is also read as a DNR Administrative Order number 19 of 2013, which is the protected areas under NEPAS. Another one is the DNR Administrative Order number 9 of 2009, which is the National Ecotourism Guidelines. Next is the DNR Administrative Order number 26 of 2008, Section 114, which is the zoning in protected areas. Next is the DNR Administrative Order number 51 of 2000, which was implemented by the Protected Areas and Wildlife Bureaus, which is the ecotourism guidelines in protected areas. And lastly, which is the JMC Marine Wildlife of whale sharks, dolphins, and sea turtles. So to elaborate it more, let's start with the DAO 2013 to 19, which are the protected areas under NEPAS, or also known as the National Integrated Protected Areas System. So when we say NEPAS, it is a landmark Philippine law that establishes a comprehensive system of protected areas to conserve the country's biological diversity, natural heritage, and vital ecological processes. Under this order, it aims to support the conservation efforts and sustainable use of natural resources in protected areas with tremendous potential for ecotourism development. It also establishes guidelines on ecotourism planning and management in protected areas in the Philippines. Next is the DNR Administrative Order number 9 of 2009. So, sa DNR Administrative Order of number 9 of 2009, under this law is the National Ecotourism Guidelines. So, under this, it sets a national ecotourism guidelines, which includes visitor management standards such as carrying capacity, safety protocols, and community involvement. It also ensures that any development within these areas is done in a way that supports ecotourism and conservation, while also maintaining the natural and aesthetic value of the environment. Next is the DENR Administrative Order number 26, Section 114 of 2008. So, under this order, it is a set of revised rules and regulations for the management of protected areas in the Philippines under the NEPAS Act. It details specific procedures, guidelines, or categories established by the DENR to protect the country's unique natural environment and conserve biodiversity. Next is the DENR Administrative Order number 51 of 2000, which was implemented by the PAUB, or also known as the Protected Areas and Wildlife Bureau. So, under this order, it is the regulations from the DENR which concerns fees for accessing and using protected areas and their resources. It was issued in the year 2000 and was implemented by PAUB. So, under this order pod, it also outlines guidelines for various types of resource use, such as subsistence, recreational, extractive, and commercial activities within the protected zones. So these fees, or the revenue that will be generated, or mga income na ma-generate, it will be used to conserve the protected area, like to conserve the environment and to make it more sustainable. So, ang kaning mga fees, dili na siya basta-basta, since it will also benefit the community and the environment itself. So lastly is the JMC Marine Wildlife. So JMC, or the Joint Memorandum Circular number 1 of 2020, it is a set of rules and regulations which governs the conduct of marine wildlife tourism interactions in the Philippines. So basically, it outlines guidelines to ensure the safety of both tourists and marine wildlife, which prohibits action that disturb animals or their habitats, and establishing rules for responsible interactions, such as sa atong whale sharks, sa atong turtles, sa atong dolphins, and etc. Like, for example, guidelines for whale shark watching, mga water activities, which would involve some tourists to interact with the wildlife creatures. So, the legal framework for visitor management and ecotourism is not merely a set of rules, but always remember, it is also a strategic, conservation-driven approach to sustainable development. Now, I'll be passing this to the next reporter.
So that wraps up our topic for today. So to conclude my groupmates discussion, visitor management is about balancing the enjoyment of visitor with the need to protect the environment, culture, and the community livelihood. It involves strategies such as regulating visitor flow, setting carrying capacity, implementing rules, educating tourists, providing infrastructure, and continuous monitoring. So, right here in the Philippines, we've seen it work. Think about Boracay's comeback after the capped visitor numbers, Puerto Princesa's booking system, or how Sagada's guided tours protect their caves. These aren't just policies, they're proof that when we get serious about managing tourism, everyone wins: the environment, the local communities, and us, the visitors. So, the next time you encounter a visitor limit or a booking requirement, don't see it as an inconvenience. See it as a promise. It's a way of making sure that the stunning places we love today are still here for our children and grandchildren to enjoy tomorrow. Let's make sure our fun today doesn't come at the expense of their future. So, thank you for listening, and we now welcome your questions or thoughts about visitor management.